excellent day for an exorcism.
Welcome to Just Another Horror Podcast.
I'm John.
Fuck capitalism!
I'm Lindsay, trying to write horror novels because I was a weird kid.
The whole world is a urinal.
What the time, bitch?
I'm John.
I'm Lindsay.
I'm M.
And we're reviewing Carnival of Souls. And Lindsay, this one little short thing that sums up the whole movie.
After a traumatic accident, a woman becomes drawn to a mysterious abandoned carnival.
That's a terrible ass synopsis right there. I think actually both movies that you picked, the synopsis just can't touch. It can't describe what we're looking at here. M, I wanted to ask a bunch of questions, and you said to be careful which ones I ask because you have a bunch of stuff to say.
What?
Was David Lynch influenced by this movie?
Yes.
He was?
Yes.
Okay. Because I can feel the David Lynch going on here.
Yeah.
Yeah, there was actually, I'm trying to think of...
So is George Romero.
Yeah, that definitely.
Romero,
especially the organ.
There were like 3 directors that were influenced by this particular film. And this was Herc's only film.
Right, yeah. Other than that, he had just done like workplace and educational instructional films.
Right. So I'm thinking like, you know, when you learn how to like drive a forklift and there's a safety video.
Right,
That's
yeah,
what
that
he
kind
did.
of thing.
That reminds me of freaking The Simpsons, Troy McClure.
Hello, I'm Troy McClure. You may remember me from such movies as Lead Paint, Delicious but Deadly, and Here Comes the Metric System.
Do you guys know who the director played in this?
Yeah, he was the man, I think is all they called him, but
Yeah.
like that she would keep seeing throughout the movie. Which I guess he was a ghoul. A ghoul. I hear say ghoul.
I've thought, man, I really should have communicated with you guys more. This is, so far today, just so everybody knows, has been a total mess. We're recording about 2 hours later than we should be, and
we really didn't talk at all about
yeah,
this.
and we didn't talk about this, and what I was going to say is that I've been thinking really hard about how to communicate this movie, because I feel like it's not really a linear plot. I guess things happen in order, but I don't feel like it's linear. I feel like it's very spacey.
It's very dreamlike
and
like surreal feeling. Mm-hmm.
And it made me feel like maybe talking about it in a way that's more like what we think what's going on is going on, like what's going on. Instead of like, then she goes to, you know, how like when I did Night of the Creeps, I was like, then they went and saw an alien, and then the alien jumped on them, and then they shot it. Like, don't do it that way. One of my favorite things about this movie is that it opens up with no credits or anything.
Yeah, I like that too. It's just right into the car.
Mm-hmm. I wrote super cold opening.
Yeah.
Freezing.
Yeah.
Brr.
I was like, did I miss something? And I tried to go back, and
I
was
did
like,
too.
Yeah.
I did too.
I'm like, holy shit! So
And then I was watching it for free on Tubi, so I was like, wait, is it not the whole movie? Are they picking up somewhere in the middle?
fuck no,
that's
dude.
just how it starts.
Yeah. And they're in a drag race. It's Mary and her 2 friends. I didn't see the third person. I keep hearing about her, but
There were
there were 3 girls.
3 women in the front seat, yeah.
okay.
And she seemed pretty disinterested even then. Like, she was just like, I don't
And
really
anxious,
care about this.
too.
Yeah.
Rightfully so.
Well, yeah.
It's weird because she gives off the impression that she doesn't want to be around people, but the movie she starts off with 2 people just drag racing with them.
But she also didn't seem, I mean, not that you could tell with that short interaction she had with them, but she didn't seem like truly connected or anything.
She's just
she didn't
there.
seem, yeah.
And they didn't really, well, they only focused on her, really. They didn't focus on the other 2.
Mm-hmm.
I couldn't even tell really who was driving. And then I was like, wait, who has a cigarette in their hand? Who, like, I was like...
Yeah, you don't
couldn't really tell.
much of them.
So, does she die when she falls off the bridge?
Yes.
Okay, yeah, I thought so too. Like, because they said it was like 3-4 hours later she came up on the dock.
Yeah, it was so strange. I mean, I think it was just like her in her like sort of afterlife, some kind of thing, or as she's dying, she's having
that's
these
what it was.
visions.
Yeah.
Like, because I couldn't figure out exactly what is this experience that she's having, because it wasn't like she was in hell exactly.
Right.
She definitely wasn't in heaven.
Right.
Like, was it like as she's dying, she is envisioning all these things?
Yeah, she's not interacting with any of these people for real,
No,
right? Okay.
I don't think so.
Well,
Yeah.
that's the one theory that I read is like that, where the way they describe it is that after they go off of the bridge, the rest of the movie is her dream in like the split second before she dies.
Mm-hmm.
What a horrible dream.
Yeah.
Why did she dream that John guy into existence?
Yeah, he was such a creep.
Ugh. Like, he takes her out to eat, and then he yells at her for not talking enough and not drinking enough. And
He was only interested whenever she seemed nice.
And then, I mean, he's like all over her. She's clearly so disinterested. Like, why are you touching her? She clearly does not want you to. Can you not read body language? Like,
Everybody was touching her way too much.
oh yeah.
Like,
But
it was
especially
making
him.
me uncomfortable. The
Yeah.
one, who grabbed her by her shoulders and was like shaking her.
her boss,
Oh,
right?
no, it was
No?
that guy, the doctor guy. In
Yeah,
park.
the doctor. And
Oh,
then, like,
yeah, yeah,
drags
yeah.
her. And then there was somebody else that I was like, stop touching her. Like, maybe it was the minister or the guy at the beginning. I can't remember. I was like, everybody just needs to get their hands off.
Yeah.
That's what I don't understand. If this is like a kind of a make peace with things kind of thing, she's not doing it.
I don't know that it's
I don't think
that.
that's what it was.
So she's imagining that all these people are touching her uncomfortably
Yeah.
before she dies.
But it's not like she's fighting against them. She's not saying, don't touch me, get away from me. Like,
Right.
But she does
But
say,
she's
I'm not
not-
interested in you, and then she says, I guess right now I am. Right now I need your company, later I won't. Stuff like that.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, she only wanted him around to feel safer since she kept seeing the man everywhere.
right.
So
And
she didn't want to be alone.
Right, and she did seem like two different people. Like in the one in the morning when they're having coffee, and she's like, "Oh, you know," and kind of flirty and stuff.
Right,
And
yeah.
then later, she's like, "Leave me alone," which I kind of like the honesty of that.
Mm.
For the
Because-
1960s, too. Goddamn. Yeah.
Right, yeah.
He makes it very obvious that he's only interested in one thing too. So if
Oh,
he can
yeah.
be straightforward like that, and
should
like
be
be
too,
very
yeah.
obvious, like I like you for this and this reason only, and if I don't think I'm getting that, then I'm going to be an asshole.
Yeah.
So why can't she be that way?
Mm-hmm.
She is. It's perfect.
Yeah.
Right,
So
yeah.
what I don't wrap my head around is why in her mind, when she's making all these people who don't exist interact with her, why they're so shitty. That's what I don't understand. Like, they're her creation.
I mean, why do we dream?
But I mean, it's
anything?
not like, yeah, because when we dream, it's not like we're only dreaming things that we want to dream, you know?
Yeah.
Keep going with this. I like this. This is exactly what I was hoping for. Did she work at a church
In real life?
in real life?
I don't know.
Or did she always want to be an organist, but not a church organist, and that was the only thing that was available?
Well, she said that she went to college and
To be an
studied
organist.
being an organist there, yeah. So, and also I was wondering, was that a thing? Like, could people just go to college to be an organist?
I'm
Back
sure
then,
at that point, yeah.
She was probably some kind of a music major, and then
Mm-hmm.
maybe.
And also, it would take a lot of talent and a lot of training to be able to do that. Like, that looks like a complicated instrument. Like, she has to move her feet all these different ways. You don't just have one set of keys, you've got multiple.
Yeah. Yeah.
I really enjoyed the organ music in it. I thought that really added to the
I did
atmosphere.
not.
You didn't like
Oh.
it?
In fact, before we found out she was an organist, I wrote something about like, what the hell's up with the organ music? And then,
Oh, no.
oh yeah, organ music. Oh my god, oh my god, she's a literal organist.
For me,
that's
that was
why.
like one of the best parts of the movie.
It was a
I
little,
agree.
it was a little headachy for me. It was a little much. But like, I grew up going to church with the organ stuff, and it was just always very loud and overbearing. And I probably still just see it that way. I don't know.
So, I had a theory about that. The reason that she's hearing all this organ music is because she's dead, and that's what they would play at a funeral. Just a thought.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Maybe, or that's what she
Or
did.
it
so,
could be that's
you know
what she
I
did,
mean?
and that's
Yeah.
why She says, this is just a job to me. I don't care about religion or anything like that.
And everybody is reacting to that like, what?
So that made me think she wanted to be an organist. But they were like, the only thing you can do is be in a church. And she's like, I don't want to be.
Maybe that was the plan before she died, was that she had gotten this job that she was going to go to.
That could be.
Like, she didn't seem to mind working in a church. It was just a job to her, though. She didn't care about it being in a church.
Right.
It's just like, well, that's just a place of business for me. I don't care. Like, and everybody was like,
I know. So
doesn't that give you nightmares?
So judgy.
Thinking like that?
What made me think of David Lynch a little bit was that the organ is both what she's playing and the score to the movie.
Yeah, I really liked that.
So, like, when he would do things like that in Twin Peaks, like Cooper Goes to the Lodge. Have you seen Twin Peaks? Cooper Goes to the Lodge. They play that song, and the little guy is dancing to it. And then he wakes up, and he's clicking to the score that we hear.
Yeah.
Which means he hears it. So I love that shit.
Right, yeah. And then at the one point where she's playing like normal church music, and then it's like her hands become possessed or something, because she's like looking at her hands like, what's going on? And then she starts playing this creepy music.
Right.
But
I couldn't tell there was really a difference between the religious music and
Bingo.
the music.
Bingo.
A little bit. I could tell there was a little bit of a difference, but like
he was like, that is satanic. Get the hell out of here. I'm
It's
like, what?
That's sacrilegious. You're fired.
You're too good. You're
Don't
too
worry.
good.
I'm not abandoning you. The church is still here for you, even though you have no way to support yourself anymore. And
right. If I were her, I'd be like, that's why I feel the way I feel about the church.
Right. Also, she sees a building, carnival thing.
It's called a
bathhouse at one point.
It was a bathhouse, then a dance hall, and then a carnival.
Okay, so I know about this.
Okay. Oh,
did my research.
Mm-hmm.
Saltair.
They are Saltair Pavilions, and there are actually lots of them around
Salt Lake City.
around like the Great Salt Lake, around Salt Lake City, and they were on the shores of the lake, and people would go there for like swimming or like bathing, like in the salt water, that kind of stuff, kind of like a hot springs kind of thing. And then other forms, like other stuff like entertainment, like you would go and spend a day like at the beach there. But over the years, the lake has receded, and they are all, I think they're all abandoned at this point. And I guess they tried to use them for other things for a little bit, but now they're just kind of in the middle of the desert, not really like on the lake.
This particular one, it burned down twice, and then they rebuilt it, and it flooded, I think.
Yep.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
This one, when he saw it, that's what gave him the idea to make the movie.
Right.
So.
And this one's it's distinctive because of like
the
way,
look of it,
the towers and
architecture.
Stuff like that. Yeah.
Yeah.
It looks different
Russian
than the other
sort
ones.
of looking.
Yeah,
Russian
almost.
architecture.
Yeah. With like spires, kind of.
Yeah.
I don't know what he saw that, and then the guy that wrote the movie, he was like,
John Clifford.
He was like, I don't care what else you do as long as you put that in there. That there's like dead people dancing in the pavilion at the end.
Right. Yeah.
So what is that? What is that supposed to symbolize?
I could not figure that out. I don't know. What do you think? Any ideas? Like, I
The-
don't know.
the
It almost
dead
seemed
welcoming
like she
her?
was searching for her soul or something, and found all these other. She's like, because she was just so drawn to this place. Like, I have to get there. If I could just get to.
Is that where people pass over?
Maybe.
And that's why they're all just hanging out there waiting to pass over?
That's the only thing that kind of thing is all I can think of.
I don't know, man. I was like confused by it. It reminded me of The Shining.
Right, yeah.
But I don't know what The Shining is about either. So.
Right.
There was just the one guy to begin with, and then at one point there were a couple other ones, but you don't see all of them until the very end, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, there's a ton of them at the end. Yeah.
It's almost like they're coming for her, like almost like she's like kind of, as they get closer, she's getting closer to death, maybe, or something like that.
Like she hasn't fully moved on to like the real afterlife yet.
Right.
Yeah, this is. It could be just her clinging, trying to stay alive, but like these things like, let go, man. You need to let go.
It could be kind of like, but this, this was my plan. This was what my life was going to be. I want to,
that could be it. hang out with this creepy guy, tell him I don't want him around, and then let him in, and then tell him to get out. And
Or she might have had a totally different life. Like, she might not have had any interest in being an organist,
Right.
you know?
Maybe
Like,
she wasn't
this
even
might have
an
just all
organist.
been a big, elaborate dream she had. Like, when she supposedly came out of the water, when she didn't really, and they asked what happened to her friends, she said she didn't remember.
Mhm.
Right.
So maybe she didn't remember any of her real life.
Oh, maybe. Well, but it doesn't matter because it's not real anyway. I was thinking about the two guys at the beginning when she was first leaving, and they were like, "Well, she's always been."
Do you think the movie would have been better to not at the end show that she was dead the whole time and leave it ambiguous?
So. I think it would have been better that way, and then we could really be wondering.
Yeah, because we're all sitting here like, she's dead, so what's going on
Right,
here?
yeah.
Like, it'd be much better to be like, is she alive and she's just passed into a different place or what? But
Right.
no. Who? Oh, sorry, go ahead.
Well, when it cut back to them pulling the car out, I was like, "She's gonna be in there."
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, absolutely. But I
Right.
didn't like that.
Yeah, I think it would have been better not showing that.
That face, I love it.
I think I like that.
Yeah. I guess the film was supposed to be a little bit longer than it was, and some of the film didn't work out right.
I'm
It was like
cool
overexposure.
with that. Because I gotta tell you, I watched this and I really wanted to watch it again, and I was like, I should. It's like 70, 80 minutes. It's
Right.
easy. Ugh. You instantly get a point from me if you can keep it 90 minutes or less. Just instantly. So, who is this Dr. Samuels guy? What is he supposed to represent? What is he? He's not a psychiatrist, right?
Right. I don't know exactly what kind of doctor he is. That's not ever said, is it?
Mm-mm. No, it's just the second time that she talks to him, he's like, I'm not a psychiatrist.
Right.
Then the third time she's talking to him, it turns out to be a ghoul.
Mm-hmm.
So
No, that's the man. It was never the doctor. In that, when she's talking to him, the doctor was never there.
the last time you mean?
Mhm.
When he spins around? Yeah,
Yeah.
that's what I meant. Jesus. I don't know. What else happens in this?
I don't know why he couldn't be facing her when she was talking and he was like writing stuff down. Like he had a desk right
Was he
there.
writing anything down?
He said he was. He
Oh,
was like,
okay.
"Excuse my back. I wanted to like get this stuff written down."
Oh, I didn't even
Like-
hear that.
Yeah, I didn't hear him. Damn. So I just thought he was just sitting there looking out the window and turned around and was the dude.
I knew it was going to be the dude.
I'm the dude.
So this must have got influence from Psycho. That's what I kind of thought too.
When did Psycho come out?
60.
Okay.
So
Oh.
this, like,
A particular scene in Psycho?
yeah, the end. When they go
When
down,
she's in the rocking
and
chair?
she's in the chair and they spin it around. I feel like this movie catapulted a bunch of people, but it was catapulted by movies like Psycho or other Hitchcock movies because it had a Hitchcock feel to it too.
It all just feels like a dream.
Yeah.
Because
It's-
that's what it is.
It's so fun to watch.
It
I
is.
don't really know what to say about it, you know? At the end, she ends up going back to that carnival. After she sees the man in her room and John is in there and it's just like, oh, there's some leaving. Because he's a piece of shit. So she goes back to the carnival and there's a bunch of ghosts there. And she
They're all
screams.
dancing, and
They're
she
all
sees
dancing.
herself dancing.
Dancing.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And that makes her scream.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And then she runs out on the beach, right?
Yeah, they chase her.
Yeah.
Oh, they chase her. Okay.
And when they...
Is it daytime?
That doesn't make any sense.
Why?
The next day they find footprints.
Right, that just stop abruptly.
Right. Whose footprints are those? Or is that really
That's all
happening?
part of her dream
That's
too,
part of
right?
her
I
dream?
think.
Yeah.
Holy
I mean,
shit!
It must be, because none of that,
It's impossible.
after
Yeah.
they go after the bridge, none of that is actually happening.
Right.
That's why I think it would have been better to not show the car.
I think so too. It would have been so much
Yeah.
more ambiguous, and you'd have a lot more like.
They're like,
maybe
what happened?
all
Who
these
chased her? Where'd she
possibilities.
go? Where'd they all go?
Who knows?
Credits.
Yeah. I
No.
like movies that you can like come up with your own ideas about.
Mm-hmm.
If it's too ambiguous, then I'm like, then I get a little frustrated.
It follows, right? Shit
Ugh,
follows. Your
shit
2-word
follows.
review.
I can't stand that movie.
It was interesting how at certain times people didn't acknowledge her like she was invisible, but like
Oh, that
most
was
of the
so
time
creepy.
they
Oh
did.
yeah. So when that happened twice, right?
Mhm.
And there was kind of like a visual effect.
It happened a couple times where it was like
Yeah.
wavy.
And from that time until she touched the tree,
Mm-hmm.
people couldn't see her or hear her.
Mm-hmm.
Was there anything else? I think that was it, right?
Yeah, they would literally walk right, like almost on top of her,
Yeah.
and not see her. She'd ask them questions, and they just not even look
Maybe
at her.
that's her starting to kind of
Leave this
leave, you know?
dimension
Fade
and
out.
move on to the afterlife.
I mean, that's got to be what's going on. The fact that the car gets pulled out at the end, it means that the director had a very specific thing he was doing, and I think that's what he was doing.
Yeah.
So, boo
Well,
for
if they
making
don't-
it not ambiguous enough.
So if there's a couple times where she isn't seen, then at the end that makes sense. Like, there's no body, she's not there. They can't see her.
But was her body ever there, or was that the dream?
No, she was never there. You know what I mean? Which is why at some points during all of this, she's like aware that she's not there
Mm-hmm.
by people not being able to see her.
Right,
or
yeah.
hear her.
Ew.
Like, she doesn't know what's going on. She doesn't know why people can't see or hear her.
Right.
But that's kind of her starting to know something's off here.
Right.
Oh my god. I gotta get high and watch this movie. Again.
Did
How
you
do you-
only watch it the one time?
I
then?
did,
Yeah.
I did. And I was like, I'm gonna watch it again today at work, and I ended up not doing it. I should have. Fuck! Alright, anything else?
Well, yeah, because that goes back to like, okay, so this is a question you love, right?
Okay.
How do you know you exist?
Fuck.
Yeah, you don't.
Yeah.
Right?
It's true.
So if other people are interacting with you, that's possibly a sign.
Unless you're creating them in your mind, and
Yeah.
literally everything that you see is what you make up.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
There's no way of knowing.
Yeah.
So which one of us is in an asylum right now? Me, right? It has to be me.
No, it has to be me. No.
I think they did a really good job with this, though, on like a low budget, like an independent film made like far from Hollywood, you know, back in 1962. Like, it wasn't
On
like
16
a typical.
millimeter too. Like.
Yeah.
So how much was it?
$33,000 budget.
Did you look up how much it cost to get the car off the bridge? Because I remember it being $17, but
It was okay. So they didn't charge them to use the bridge, but they had to pay for the repairs of the bridge, and that was $12.
Ah,
but I don't know
that's what I
about
read,
the car itself,
right.
like how much.
Was
that...
it a junky car that didn't matter?
Right, I
'cause
don't
you don't
know.
want to break a brand new car when you're on a
Yeah.
low budget.
Basically, it was the director did this on like a summer vacation
He did it in 2 or 3
from
weeks,
his
right?
normal job.
Yeah.
And
it-
they did it like the guerrilla style, where they
Right.
would just
They
not
weren't, like-
actually get permits and everything.
Right, like in the store, like they just went in and started filming in a store,
Yeah.
and had to do it like quick before they got.
That's
kicked
probably
out.
why the acting is so wooden.
Mm,
Yeah, I
Yeah.
felt like the acting was meh. But I was like, that for this though, that's perfect.
yeah,
That
it
works for this.
I agree.
The Candace Hilligos, she's the main character.
Mm-hmm.
This is pretty much her only movie, I think.
Yeah,
She was paid $2,000 to do it, which
Yeah.
gave her and her husband enough money that he quit his job and pursued an acting career also.
Nice.
Although I don't think
kick-ass.
they were really in it. I think he did Broadway stuff, but that was it.
So I know
I know she turned down another horror film to do this one because she just wanted a quick thing where she'd get her money and be done.
When they've tried to do remakes and stuff, she's always been like,
Oh yeah, and you saw the
she
Wes
seems to be
Craven
very
remake.
protective of the
Garbage.
It's
memory.
like nothing like this
No,
one,
it's
right?
not.
I haven't seen it, but
what the hell he was doing. Like, Wes
it's
Craven's better
basically
than
just
that,
the
man.
same name, totally different movie.
Yeah. So I know I told you this already, but little horror trivia. Not related to this, but a little related because you brought up that they got $2,000 for this, and I helped them do other stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So when they made the first Friday the 13th, they asked Betsy Palmer to play Jason's mom. Right at the time, it was Mrs. Voorhees. It wasn't Jason's mom, and she was like, "Fuck no, that's the worst script I've ever read. I'm not doing that."
Wait, Betsy Palmer. No. What was she in?
She's in a bunch of shit in the 50s and 60s. She was like a wholesome, very friendly, very happy
She
actress.
was in something else
I don't know what she was before.
recently that we watched. I can't remember. Never mind. Go ahead.
She's like, fuck no, I'm not going to do this, right? So she's leaving and she's driving home and her car breaks down. And she's like, I gotta get a new car. And she literally went back and did Friday the 13th because A, she needed money for the new car, which that paid for, and B, she's like, nobody's ever gonna see this piece of shit. Whoops. When it blew up, she was like, oh no, like, what am I gonna do?
I feel like they just never know. Like,
yeah.
And sometimes I feel like they hope it doesn't blow up.
That's what she was
Right,
doing.
that's what...
And sometimes it doesn't blow up and they wish it did. And
It took her 10 years to finally start talking to fans and stuff. She started going and she started asking questions like, why do you people like this?
so funny.
Awesome.
But eventually she's like, oh, they're just enjoying it. They're fine. So now she goes to the conventions and stuff all the time. And I'm sure they pay her more now than they did for the movie originally.
Right.
I mean, I can imagine, like, if you weren't trying to be in horror movies, you know what I mean? That then getting thrown into, it's a whole culture, what I'm learning. It's a whole culture. So if you get thrown into that unexpectedly, then I wouldn't know how to take it either, you know?
Yeah, people get worried that they're going to be pigeonholed too.
Right.
Like, if they do this is all they're going to do. But Kevin Bacon was in Friday the 13th. He did fine.
Or Johnny Depp.
Johnny Depp was in Nightmare on Elm Street.
Yeah.
And Part 6. He did fine. Like,
But I know a lot of the time it does kind of work like that, and people are afraid to do horror sometimes because they're afraid that that's the only rules that they're going to get then.
Well, Stand By Me had those 4 kids. 3 of them went on to go do all kinds of cool shit.
Yeah.
The one, his story is like horrendous and tragic because he got offered another job on a shitty horror movie and he didn't want to do it. He was like 13 or 14. But his parents were like, you're gonna do it. And like all these associates were like, you're gonna do it. While on set, they were abused. And then the only offers he was getting were for these cheesy direct-to-video horror movies, and he couldn't get out of it no matter how hard he tried. So, but his parents got all the money, so yay.
Oh, good for them.
So those were all, okay, so Johnny Depp, Kevin Bacon, yada yada. So any women that were in old horror movies?
Jamie Lee Curtis.
Yeah, Halloween.
She also did a couple other slashers, too, and still went on
And
to
she's
go
been
make
in a
other
lot of
movies.
the Halloween movies.
Yeah, she loves that shit, though. She's, like, just... She loves that character.
Right, yeah.
And True Lies?
True Lies.
Yeah.
I haven't seen that since I was, like, really young. Over at a friend's house, I remember.
I saw it in college.
There's not a whole lot. That's the thing. It doesn't sound like it's that interesting, but okay, let's just do the reviews first. Go ahead, Lindsay.
Okay. I enjoyed the movie. I liked it for the atmosphere, definitely. Like, I really loved the organ score. Like, for me, that was one of the top things in the movie. And I just liked the overall atmosphere, the surreal kind of dreamlike stuff. And I was impressed with, like a little independent film like that back in 1962, of course. It's hard. I don't know what I want to rate this. I'm just gonna say like 6.5. Cause like for back then, if I would have seen it back then before all the horror movies that I've seen now, I probably would have rated it much higher. But like comparing it to ones that came after it, it's not like as up there as some.
Yeah.
So there, that's what I say.
Em?
No, go ahead.
Oh, me? Okay. I have bits and pieces of things that bother me about it. But first of all, the fact that it's from the 60s and I really enjoyed it was good. The pacing, whether it was on purpose or not, it was perfect. The one thing I don't like about old movies is how bad pacing can be. But this thing was quick.
Right.
And you're right about the atmosphere too. Like, if you want a creepy atmosphere, like something to study if you're going to make a movie about a creepy atmosphere, this would be a good place to start. I liked how mysterious everything was, how you were questioning everything you were seeing, and my problems are that it gave you a concrete, definite answer, but then that made everything more confusing. That's weird that it did that, but I didn't like that. I think it should have just been like, is she alive? Is she dead? Did she get taken to the spirit world? What the fuck's going on?
Yeah.
But I definitely want to watch it again. So that's always good. So I'm going to give it an 8. All right, knock us down a peg or two.
Oh my god. So there were some things in it that made it, for me, almost like so bad it was good.
Oh.
Kind of, because things like the footsteps, her shoe, like whoever did the post editing or whatever with the shoe.
Oh, the sounds of her shoes.
Of her walking.
Yeah.
They're way off, yeah.
Way off.
Yeah.
She was not playing the organ. Like, there was no, like, it was just, a lot of that stuff was just so off. I think the most annoying thing was the shoe sounds for me. And at the one part after she's in the store and she's going down the street and then she's going over here and she's going over there and, like, they're following, the footsteps are following her, like, everywhere. And then at one point she goes back to the park, and I'm like, oh, thank God she's walking on grass again.
Oh, man.
Yeah, that didn't really bother me.
Yeah.
Oh, it bothered me. It really bothered me. Like, just don't have any shoe sounds if you can't get it to match up. It would be like that, and then she would run, and it would be like... Oh, it was bad. You look so sad over there.
Oh, no, I'm just thinking about, like, what ADR must have been like back then. Especially if you were broke.
Right, yeah.
So, yeah. No, that's a legit criticism. It is.
Just don't do the shoe sound.
Yeah, you can just go without them. And then if somebody goes, why aren't they making any sound? Because they're dead. It's not real.
Yeah, that could have actually
That
worked.
actually would have worked better. I would have
Yeah.
liked that better.
Mm-hmm.
God. I have to give, like, a number.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
3.
Wow. Well, at least it's not a 1.
Yeah.
My points are 4. The overall feeling, dreamy,
Mm.
a little creepy. I actually like the ending when she's in the car.
You know what that made it feel like? Was a Twilight Zone episode or something
It
like
actually
that.
did.
Yeah.
I think a lot of it had sort
They-
of that kind of vibe.
Yeah.
They did actually do a mini a Twilight episode that was like a mini version of this movie.
Oh,
I believe,
that makes
if
sense.
I read correctly.
I want to see that. I mean, maybe I saw it like way back in the day and didn't even realize.
Oh, maybe. I don't know. I had a hard time with this one. I wrote a lot of like, ugh, so bad.
Really?
But, I mean, you guys know all of the movies I've watched so far, so I don't know.
But also think of how long ago this was made, and it wasn't like a Hollywood big budget movie or something.
I don't think it was great.
Yeah, it's fine. That's good enough.
But it was old. I don't know. The only other movie we watched that old was The Birds.
The Birds, right.
And I didn't even watch the
Yeah.
whole movie, so...
Oh, that's
But
right.
you still were very entertaining.
Anyway.
We liked your puns.
Thanks.
Why didn't you make any puns this time? You know
You
what?
watched this one.
I think
so.
from now on,
I
if you
have
don't like
things to
a,
talk about.
Yeah.
if you don't like a movie, you should just shut it off and just make a list of puns.
Yeah.
So either high recommend or stay the fuck away. It depends on which person you like on the show.
I understand.
So-
Actually, I do understand the cult following, and they do have. I think they play it in theaters the same as like Rocky Horror, where they do different stuff like during the
Oh, cool. I didn't know that.
showing.
So it would be, in that case, it would be It's So Bad It's Good movie.
Right.
So
But it wasn't. It was no Room. It was no The Room.
no, absolutely not.
You know.
That's funny.
So it wasn't that bad good.
Peter, you always play psychologist with us.
If you want to get a hold of us, facebook.com/justanotherhorrorpodcast, and our email is justahorrorpodcast.
No idea.
Is it just a horror podcast?
It's just a horror podcast @gmail.com.
Instagram is just a horror pod.
Twitter is just Horror Pod.
Yeah. So rate, review, and subscribe on YouTube, Podbean, Apple Podcasts, Spotify.
Throw me.
Yeah!